We're not going to call it an evaluation, though, because of the stress involved with it. So we're going to talk about, let me make sure this is recording. Can you see that it's being recorded?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you. So we're going to talk about providing feedback to your SLPA, why it's uncomfortable. We're going to talk about the new form, the feedback that they can provide to you, and any other topics and questions that you may have. So I'm going to be brief with my presentation, and then we're going to open it up with other questions. We talked about, prior to the recording of this presentation, how it feels to evaluate someone else. And most people said that felt really great if their student or SLPA was doing well, but it would be really uncomfortable if they were not. Then we recalled how we felt when we were being evaluated, and words like horrible and terrified were used. So it's not a pleasant experience. And the reason that it's not is that we feel like we're being criticized, and we're really hard on ourselves as perfectionists. And so we need to look at this in terms of not evaluating the person, but skills and competencies. When I worked as a liaison between the University of Cincinnati and the Department of Ed, I had the wonderful opportunity to work with supervisors and students as they were going through the whole process of the graduate program. And I would interview them together. I'd go around the state, interview them together, then I would interview them separately, and then I would interview them again together. And what I found is that sometimes there were elephants in the room that nobody was talking about, and that could be a problem. And so what are some of these elephants that are in the room? Well, first of all, if we don't and we're not talking about a bad therapist, we're talking about making them better therapists. And so if we don't provide feedback, then our students don't receive the best services. And what I discovered too is, particularly with people who had been SLPAs and then they were in graduate school with the UC program, so they'd had a lot of experience. And so they didn't know what they didn't know. I mean, they knew what they knew, but they didn't know what they were missing. And sometimes there were gaps in their skills. They maybe had a lot of experience with speech sound disorders, but nothing with language or augmentative. And they can't grow, and we can't grow. We don't know what we don't know. So the feedback is really important. And if we're not careful, these expectations, like I had a situation where one student just was not being not going on her own, and she relied upon the supervisor to develop all the activities. So she was not being proactive. She was not, taking initiative. And she was great with the kids. She was great with the teachers. Everybody loved her, but she was not very proactive. And her supervisor got really frustrated, but they weren't talking about it. And in talking to them separately, I discovered that the grad student, was overwhelmed. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to ask what to do. But she was doing the best she could, and she was doing a very good job and had lots of potential as an SLP, but she needed some guidance. And the supervisor was getting so frustrated, thinking she was lazy, or not doing part, that she was ready to quit as a supervisor. So that elephant got bigger and bigger, and these expectations can become disappointments, or they can become resentments. And so we've got to talk about these things, good and bad. People need to hear what they're doing well as well. In looking at the new guidance document, just another reminder that you are responsible for all of the students on the SLPA's caseload. So you want to make sure that they're doing the right thing and they're doing it well. And you need to determine the amount of direct supervision based upon the level of training and experience that SLPA has. Now, this was something that a lot of people missed, but in the guidance document, it says that initially, during the first 90 days, they should receive 90%, I'm not 90%, oh my gosh, you guys would die, 20% direct and 10% indirect supervision. A lot of people either asked questions or they just went ahead and put the 10%. I think we're going to perhaps change this. I want your feedback. But I do think, in talking with Leanne, initially you do need to do a little bit more supervision each school year, and we're going to talk about why. But your determination of direct supervision is going to be based on what the SLPA is able to do and their caseloads. And so if we look at, determining competencies and skills, you can have a wonderful SLPA, the kids love them, the teachers love them, they're your friend, they've been your colleague forever. So you don't feel very comfortable, having, doing an evaluation and providing any kind of feedback. And yet, there might be gaps. And you may not have time to do more direct supervision, even though they need it. And that's when you might call Leanne or call your director, because I realize time is an issue. I'm thinking that because all of the SLPAs needed 100% of their virtual sessions supervised right off the bat, you probably met that this time, but we need to get your feedback as to what you think. And I want to tell you why we put this. Things change from school year to school year. The SLPA may have new schools, so there's a new caseload, new students, new goals, new principals, so things change. And so to assume that just because they've been an SLPA forever, or 10 or 15 or 20 years, doesn't mean that there might not be something new that comes up. And so we have to consider what changes from year to year, and the fact you might have a new supervising SLP. I experienced that last year. We had a supervisor who had to quit quickly. I mean, she had a health issue. And so I helped the county by providing supervision until they found somebody and helped them find someone. But the supervisor felt that this SLPA was great. I mean, wouldn't need much help. But because I was doing it virtually and they had been doing it face to face and together, some of the gaps weren't identified until the situation changed. And this SLPA was really struggling. She did not know what to do on her own. And so we have to remember that things change and, look at it differently each year. Or the goals might change. The student might be in a new level. Maybe they're going to junior high or whatever. And you just have to factor that in. So we developed a new form. We're not calling it an evaluation form. It's a level of supervision and instruction. It looks at the roles. Well, first, let me go back. The rating is a little different. You notice, first of all, it says during year one, the post 90 days, you do an eval, and then in May, you do another one. Let's say you're not going to be the supervising SLP the next year. It might help to at least have something about that SLPA when a new supervisor takes over. But after the first year, then you would evaluate them in January and May. This is not required, by the way. This is recommended. But it is good support for your determination of the amount of direct and indirect supervision. So if you look at how we've rated it, 1 would be when you're modeling and you're providing the instruction at the same time as you're seeing the student, you're doing everything. 2 would be 100% supervision. They're doing it, but you're watching 100% of the time. This might be they might be a 5, which is the minimum amount of direct supervision on most things. They might be a 5 on speech sound disorders and some language or preschool, but they might be a 2 or a 3 in AAC because this is something new. So what the form does is it takes the individual roles and responsibilities of the SLPA, and also it breaks it up into the different areas of speech language disorders. And so again, you might have all 5s no, all fives on some things, but not with a new goal or a new student. So this gives you an opportunity to break apart their roles and responsibilities and be able to pinpoint areas in which you might need to focus more as far as observing more and or modeling more. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on how to fill out the form because you've done that kind of thing before, but I just want you to see that it does take into account as many things as we could think of, but you might find some other things that you might want to add and you can suggest to us. And then meaningful comments. I made this mistake because I didn't feel comfortable criticizing or not criticizing, providing feedback. Like maybe you need to learn a little bit more about this. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I was always saying, good job, you're doing a great job. This is all great. But I wasn't even specific about what they were good at. So your comments become real helpful as well. They're not going to grow. And like Kathy was saying before the presentation, you don't want them to grow into a mini you. I mean, you have to respect the fact that they're going to do things differently, but you do want to make sure that you've covered all the bases of the kids on their caseloads. And they have a form that they can provide information to you. And I think this is useful as well. It's not an evaluation, but it's telling you the areas in which they don't feel comfortable or areas in which they might need some support, and also how they learn best. Some people learn best with modeling. Some people learn best with having something written down so they can look at it later and process it. Other people want to know, tell me where to go, give me some resources, and I'll discover it on my own. So this is a form that I'm going to share with your SLPAs at 12:30, and hopefully you all can, both decide that let's talk about this objectively. Let's put our friend hat, our colleague hat to the side, and let's objectively talk about skills and competencies. And so we're going to, if you have questions, I'm going to turn off the slideshow and be able to see you. But also, before I turn this off, I want to thank you so much for supervising these these SLPAs, and all that you do to help our students in the schools. I mean, the therapy you provide and the supervision that you provide makes a real difference. And so I appreciate it. Leanne, I know appreciates it, and I know it's Friday and you guys are ready for Friday, but thank you. So I'm going to stop presenting here, and then I just want to know if you have any questions. I see there's been a comment. Let's look for the comment. Okay. Yeah, you guys commented that you could see it, but I couldn't see the I can see it. So what are your thoughts regarding this recommended evaluation or feedback form?
Well, I think it's a good opportunity to let your SLPA know what he or she is doing well. And I appreciate your comment that you weren't specific about what your person was doing well. So I'll keep that in mind, to be specific about the positive things I'm seeing in therapy.
Libby, I like the way you stated about having us make sure we model and stuff, because I'm a little different than some. I have a seasoned SLPA, and so he's been doing it, but it also helps to model, especially with the new virtual platforms and all that. We're all struggling with it at the same time, but we're getting there.
Yes.
And so we've tried to build in more of him watching me do therapy as just not me supervising him doing therapy, but on the, with me sharing my screen and using the boom cards and whatever have you that, I've picked up along the way. But like I said, it's hard for me to fit into having a new SLPA because mine is pretty seasoned.
Right, right. And I think I think Vicki, you've got a real seasoned SLPA as well. And I think in some ways that's harder because you don't want to sound like you're telling them that they don't know something, and yet there might be some areas where there are gaps, like I was telling with some of those students, and that's an awkward position to be in.
Yes, and especially if they've been somewhere else, and like, for example, another county had many other supervisors, and when they're in their current county, it may be done a little differently.
Exactly.
And having adopt that, not, well, we don't do it this way in county. We didn't do it. I'm like, but you're not. You're in Fayette County right now. So,
right.
And that's, that's our biggest, that's been our biggest, but we've kind of eased away from that now. So it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you had to have some not awkward conversations, but straightforward conversations to get to that point.
Yeah. I just had this,
which is hard.
I don't have a problem with that. So
anybody else? What do you think about the 90 days when you first start out in a school year? Do you think that's too long? And what do you think about doing these assessments? I mean, we don't want to add more for you to do it, but we also want you to have a way to back up your decision to reduce the amount of direct supervision. You're being quiet, everybody. That's good or bad. Okay. I don't see your faces.
Let me ask you something. Okay, if we do this evaluation, okay, and it's feedback for, I understand, the SLPA, and it's feedback for the state or whatever, our county.
No, we wouldn't even see it.
Oh, you wouldn't even see it?
No, this is something that you guys would keep between yourselves. The SLPA might have their own folder that they carry with them if they go from county.
It's not something that would be responsible for turning in?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because in our situation, in my situation in particular, I'm not sure that is needed at this time, because I've had a lot of real conversations with my SLPA, and they've come back, I think, with me, because he knows that this is a whole new ball game. And he asks me questions on a regular basis, and we have that open, but I'm not sure if there's someone out there that doesn't have that openness, that candor, whatever, with their SLPA.
Right.
So I don't know I'll try and we'll use it and see how we do.
Well, it's just as a point of discussion, really. And I would recommend that you have your SLPA do their feedback to you.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, because I do think, if you look at it not as an evaluation, this is not determining, how bad or good you are.
Yes.
But what areas can I help you with? What areas do you need maybe some suggestions?
Okay.
And it's not to make them feel bad or good or whatever. It's to make sure that they sometimes if we don't hear a question from someone, we assume they know. And I discovered in my UC liaison work that lots of times the students or the SLPs wouldn't ask questions because they didn't want to look like they didn't know. And they were afraid they'd get a low grade if they did ask. And so then that information never got to them. So anyway, everybody else, Vicki, Kathy, Terry, and Aubrey, feedback.
The forms look fairly simple to complete, so I won't have a problem doing that in January, and I think it will be a good opportunity for my supervisor to give feedback to me. And I'm going to have to hop off here to join
Yes,
the
and
next
what I'm
meeting.
going to do real fast is I'm going to post the link for
Okay.
the for you to get your certificate of attendance. And if you all would fill that out, and I think there's a place for you to also suggest anything, because, you know, like I said, we might be changing some of this a little bit. Let me make sure I gave you the right one. And here's the, everybody's got to hop off. I have the SLPAs coming on in 2 minutes. So we all got to hop off, but let me make sure. Can you get the link? Did you all get the link okay? Let me make sure I've also got the Scantron. What
I
I'll do,
don't have it yet, but
you don't have the link?
No, we don't have the link.
Okay, I'm getting it. Here we go. There's your QR code.
okay, I got it.
Thank you.
And your
Thanks.
licensing board did approve this for half an hour, so you can use this as a certificate for the state licensing board. Thank you guys for attending,
Thanks.
and any comments, let me know, okay? Good
Okay,
talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Libby,
Uh-huh.
I don't see it. This is Vicky.
Do you see it in the chat box? If you go to where the,
Oh, I see it there.
yes,
And I had been using the old forms.
that's okay. That's fine. But, you know, you might want to try the next time to use the new one. Just to
Okay.
see, and then any kind of, like if I've missed anything as far as, you know, a role or a responsibility that I've missed, you know, tell me about it.
Okay. And where can I get the form?
If you go to your Supervising SLP team and you go to files, you'll find the whole guidance document.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.